Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Aligned and Well podcast. It's Shawne here, your host. I'm really excited about today's interview. I'm going to be interviewing a friend of mine, Karen Quaynor. She is the medical director of Bliss Health and Wellness in Lynwood, Washington. And at Bliss Health and Wellness, they perform minimally invasive aesthetic treatments to enhance people's inherent beauty. She's also a board certified family medicine physician, and she just recently left her practice and is now doing aesthetics full time. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that journey and about why physicians are leaving healthcare and why, just healthcare professionals in general are leaving healthcare. I'm so pumped for you guys to hear this. If you are someone who is in healthcare and is feeling really exhausted and burned out, this is just another story for you to hear, to empower you to do what fulfills you. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this interview. Hi, friends. My name is Shawne Arceneaux, but you can call me Shawne. I'm a board-certified nurse coach and holistic healer, and I want to help you transform your life in a way that feels in total alignment with your heart and who you truly are. Each week, I'll be sharing with you my tips on how to become more empowered in your own wellness journey and create a vibrant, fulfilling life that reflects your values and your truth. You'll hear insightful interviews on different life and wellness topics and stories from myself and other beautiful souls who share my mission of spreading love and light in this sometimes dark world. My hope for this podcast is that you will walk away feeling inspired and more aligned in your purpose. This is your permission to get curious and lean into your intuition as we all learn and grow together. Welcome to the Aligned and Well podcast. Karen, I'm so excited to have you on my podcast. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Truly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to chat with you and have an awesome conversation. Before we dive into it, can you just give my listeners a little intro of who you are and what you do?
I am a family medicine physician, and I, in the last 6 months, have pivoted away from employed physicianhood.
Yeah.
And so I pivoted to aesthetics, so injectables, Botox, fillers, microneedling. And while I was still trying to figure out how I wanted to transition my practice, because I still want to, care for the overall health of people.
Yeah.
So I'm still working that out. But that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. You took this big leap 6 months ago. I remember chatting with you about that when it was happening, and it was time, right?
Yeah.
It was so time.
It was time. Yeah. I was feeling very burnt out. And just, I didn't feel like I had balance in any one area.
Yeah.
And I know that balance is always a moving target, but it really felt like health, relationships, just everything was just not where I wanted it to be. And so I knew it was time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to get into why you decided to leave the traditional, like family physician role. But what inspired you to become a physician in the first place?
Since I was a little kid, I always loved science.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Trinidad in the Caribbean, and we had limited access back then to like cable channels. Yeah. And CNN used to be shown, and there was a show, Science and Technology, that I used to always watch, and I would always tell my parents I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I thought the technology was cool, and I also wanted to care for people. And so trying to navigate that and figure that out, since nobody in my family was a doctor, I was on the path trying to figure that out. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I love that this has been kind of like a lifelong dream for you. Can you tell me a little bit about once you got to like, once you got through med school and you're practicing a physician, what were some of the things that were a little different than what you expected?
Um, the emphasis on billing and
Yeah.
money and time spent with patients,
Mhm.
because that wasn't, I mean, the emphasis through training was acquiring the knowledge and the
Mhm.
skill set, right?
Yeah.
That's what the focus was. It was never on, okay, now you gotta,
Yeah.
you have to finish your charts in,
Yeah.
24 hours and you have to see 20 plus people in a day, in
Yeah.
this amount of time. That was the reality later.
Yeah.
Later in the
That's
training, like residency into practice.
right. Right. That's something that actually like yeah, took me by surprise as well going into the nursing field and how the emphasis on like you have to chart everything and like, it is very
Yeah.
interesting how much time in a shift in the hospital I would spend behind a computer
Yeah.
instead of in front of the patient. Um
Yeah.
so I'm wondering like when did you start to feel like this like something needed to shift in your practice?
Um, I have always worked in smaller clinic settings.
Mhm.
And the practice that I was in at the time, I was actually the clinical director. It was myself and there was a pediatrician and then there was an urgent care that I was overseeing. But me being the only family medicine doc,
Mhm.
like I didn't really have a lot of backup coverage. So even when I was off, I wasn't off.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized I wasn't getting any downtime. Um, and I remember my boss, he made a comment in one of our provider meetings that he didn't like the word burnout. And so then I was like,
What? Why?
I don't feel comfortable even telling him that I feel overwhelmed,
Yeah.
because I have a family, I have kids,
Right.
like trying to balance everything, taking care of people. Um, it was challenging. So I was like, well, what do I do? So that's when that feeling of overwhelm
Yeah.
and feeling of burnout started.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so strange that he said he didn't like the word burnout. Like I'm wondering what he meant by that because surely he probably knew that people were feeling burnt out.
I think, well, he's of a different generation. I think part of
Yeah.
it is generational because I've even encountered women of that generation too who have that same kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think that they are sensitive to
Yeah.
people coming in now with I think it's just a different set of values, a different set,
Yeah.
because I think back then, your work defined you,
Yeah.
and you pride yourself on your
Right.
career, your job, right? I think more and more people are realizing that you're more than just your job, you're more than just your title,
Yeah.
um, and especially with, I think, COVID and the lockdown, I think people really started to reevaluate their
Yeah.
priorities.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you were still working in your practice as a family physician in the midst of COVID and all that. So how
Yeah.
did that impact like I mean, I'm sure everyone in the healthcare field we were all really struggling. um
Yeah.
so like what different areas of your life kind of suffered by working in that kind of environment in the middle of a pandemic that fed your burnout? Like what
Oh, yeah. So, because we, as people working in healthcare, we were freaking out because,
Right.
This is all new. And real-time knowledge,
Yeah.
like on the job training,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They're changing policies and procedures left and right, like every other day. Like,
right.
yeah.
Right. Coupled with so much information. And I think, in the age of social media, patients are flooded with information and not really knowing how to critically distill fact from fiction. And so they came in with their own set of views on things. And me like praying that I wouldn't infect my family with COVID. And around that time too, I mean, with the whole George Floyd thing.
It all happened at the same time, like one after the other. Yeah.
My kids were freaking out. They were like, Mom, like, I'm so scared. My friends, they were like, oh my gosh, like it was a lot all at once. And, people would come in and I would just the question of, how are you doing? They would just break down crying.
Wow.
Consistently. Right.
Yeah.
And, I have to sit with that, like you're not doing okay.
Yeah.
Right. And how can I help you? What can I do? Like, I just left it open-ended. What do you need now? Right. Because it's not always about a blood pressure check or diabetes. It's your mental, emotional well-being as well. Right. I treat the whole person.
Yes.
But then coupled with like all of that, but I felt like such a hypocrite because I was not taking care of myself, right? I would go a whole day without drinking water, without using the bathroom, sometimes without eating, because there wasn't enough time to do paperwork, call people back. So it's before clinic, during my lunch break, after work, trying to fit in all those other things that were not allotted time for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's so strange to be in front of a patient and have them have this like emotional experience, but also have in the back of your mind too, like, I got to get to the next patient. I got to chart this. I have to do all this paperwork. Like that's not the place that we want to be in whenever we're connecting with our patients. Right.
No. Right. Yeah. And I just pray. I one thing I was grateful is I'd always apologize to the next patient, right? Like, I'm so sorry I'm running behind. But I think they understood and they knew like what I was doing for the patient before them, that I would do for them too. Right. Like, absolutely. No matter how much time it took, we were going to address whatever was needed. So thankfully they were very understanding.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, as speaking as like someone who sees a doctor, like as a patient, I love whenever my physician spends time with me and actually asks me questions, because, you can come in with a specific problem, like a high blood pressure or whatever, but that it's always rooted in something deeper. And there's always, a holistic picture to look at when it comes to a human being. So, I am so curious as to, when was the moment for you that you were like, I got to do my own thing. Like, I got to do what fulfills me. I got to do something different so I can take care of myself. Like, what was there a specific moment that really just prompted you to be like, I'm done with this practice?
My daughter was going to college. She was going away to college. So I had to take time off to help her move in out of state. And again, this is in a different practice, but again, smaller. So there were only 2 providers.
Right.
And the other physician also had a daughter of the same age, and she had to take her daughter away to college at the same time. And the administration did not want to give us PTO at the same time. They said somebody had to be in the clinic. And, I'm so grateful that the practice manager got someone to cover us, but I still had to take my work laptop with me out of state. I still had to work on my inbox in the midst of just a lot. And I was like, you know what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is insanity. We don't do enough to make sure that healthcare providers have real time off. I think it needs to be addressed, because we have to do that. I remember I had to cancel my clinic because my daughter was sick. I had to go pick her up from school. And a guy, he sent me a message through the patient portal. He was so irate. He was like, I have never had a doctor cancel an appointment on me. He said, I don't know if it's your race or your gender, or maybe it's your age. And he said, my father is a physician, and he said, under no circumstances should any physician take time off. And like, he just went in.
I'm having a lot of bodily sensations that I'm feeling that are very like I feel angry whenever I hear that. That's so unacceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that taught me that on some level, we're not, I think certain people's perception of healthcare providers is like, we're superhuman, or we don't have a life outside of work.
Right.
Or we're not supposed to anyway.
Yeah. Like our purpose is just to help you, which it is, but also we cannot help people if we don't help ourselves first, like, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, he refused to reschedule with me.
Wow.
And he saw other providers, like he would go to urgent care and stuff like that, until I think they made him see me after like a year, because he needed refills on his medicine. And so I let the practice manager know. I said, listen, I just want you to know that if you hear anything, I'm going to be addressing this, because this is the first time that I'm seeing this person since this incident. Yeah. And I pulled up my stool right up to him, and I said, we have to, because, he was trying to make small talk and stuff. And I was like, we have to address what you said.
Yeah, your response.
I was like, I said, I want you to know, like, under no circumstances would I ever just frivolously, cancel. I want you to know that your health is of utmost importance to me, right? So I don't want you to think that it was an intentional slight against you, right? But what you said to me was completely inappropriate.
Oh yeah.
And I did not back down, and until he apologized.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Well, good for you for standing up for yourself there, because I feel like also, like, to your point, earlier you said that the public, I think, views healthcare professionals as these superhuman people, or people who just like aren't human. They're just there to provide a service for them. And, it's nice that we're having this conversation, because it helps humanize the people that you see in healthcare, and just, letting people know that we're human beings as well. We have our own feelings, and it would be totally inappropriate for a physician to say that same thing that he said to you to a patient. So, there has to be some boundaries there, and some accountability in terms of the opposite relationship.
Exactly. Totally. Right. Yeah. Cause I treat people with the utmost of respect. And I hope that always comes across. And so I don't tolerate it against myself or anybody I work with.
Yeah. Wow. And so that moment is definitely very powerful. And I can see why that would make you be like, okay, I need to do something different. What drew you specifically to aesthetics?
Interesting. I had been talking to a friend of mine about burnout.
Yeah.
And she's a business coach, and we were talking about different options of things that I could pivot to, coupled with the fact that, in my family, they're very much into holistic and complementary medicine. So, like, I went to visit my mom, and I got a Reiki treatment, and the lady who did it, she's like, you need to tap into more of your feminine side. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, Shawne, there are days I would leave the house and I wouldn't even look at myself in the mirror. My kids used to tease me, and they would tell me that they would nominate me for this show that used to be on TLC, What Not to Wear.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yes. And medicine for so long has been so male driven, right? And so there's a culture around that where you have to, present yourself in a certain way. And the more I tapped into more of my feminine side, and realized my strength in that and what I bring to the table, mm-hmm. I felt more empowered. And I was like, you know what? Aesthetics would allow me to focus on some of that and help me incorporate more self-care into my own routine. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so I signed up for a training, and I just loved it. Just seeing the transformation in women, mm-hmm. right? One woman said, wow, I look so much more youthful. Because, as I get older, like, I still feel the same.
Yeah.
Right? But my body is...
Right.
My body is like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, doing some of this anti-aging care, self-care, right? It just brings out more confidence, mm-hmm. Because we are in an image-driven society.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I think, it helps you feel your best.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I also love the fact that, you were talking about how, like, you feel the same inside, you feel like you can feel energetic and vibrant and all this stuff. And your body doesn't reflect that, And so I want to, like, really appreciate the fact that, yes, there's inner work to do as far as how you feel in your body, and loving yourself and loving your body the way that it is. But also there's no shame in wanting the outside to match the inside.
Oh, totally. Absolutely no shame. I do think there's a little bit of a stigma, but I did some Botox on a friend of mine who, she later in life, she's like in her 50s. She had to pivot during the pandemic, and now she's an esthetician. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to gift you with some Botox. And the transformation that it has made to her appearance, she looks great.
Yeah.
And I could tell, like, she loves it, That's the best gift. Like, to make someone feel better in whatever capacity, right? As long as it's not harmful, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And earlier, you said that there's definitely a stigma around it. And I think that the biggest thing here is, it's not about fixing someone's appearance, right? There's nothing wrong with the way that anyone looks. It's just about doing something for yourself and treating yourself. I think that a lot of people don't look at it that way. A lot of people do, but there are people who, the reason the stigma exists is because I think that people have this perception of, of it being like, oh, you're not happy with your body. Like you're not,
Right.
so that's why you're doing all these things to change it. And, there's another side to that coin, that a lot of people
Yeah.
don't really talk about.
Oh, totally. And there's so many uses for Botox, right? People use it for migraines. They use it for TMJ treatment, for excessive sweating, right? Because it shrinks your pores. So there are multiple uses for Botox, therapeutic uses. And I just think we need to move away from judgment.
Yeah.
I think we as a society, we can be very judgmental, and we need to release that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And even just hearing you talk about your practice, it lights you up. You have a smile on your face right now. Like you are it seems like this is such a fulfilling avenue for you. And I'm so happy that you found something that really lights you up and that makes you, able to practice helping people heal in a way that is aligned with you. And one of the things that I thought of too was, the fact that you were talking before we got into the aesthetics topic, that more physicians need to, or, just healthcare workers in general need to be able to feel like they can have time off to take care of themselves, to do things like that, to implement self-care. And so where do you feel like the gap is in the healthcare system, and what do you think can be done or needs to be done about it?
I think that too often we wait for things to reach a critical mass before change is implemented. And I think I was hopeful that with COVID, people have time to step back and reevaluate and come back to the drawing board and, come up with some innovations.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen, sadly. I think that incorporating more stakeholders in decision making, because right now in healthcare, you have insurance companies dictating a lot of what we do. And so a lot of what we do is tailored to the reimbursement. So it all comes down to money, right?
Oh, right.
And then we have a lot of top heavy organizations in terms of the administration. So we're paying a lot of these salaries above us, people who are not involved in direct patient care, making decisions about what happens in the room with us or in the hospital, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that we need to have more representation of the actual staff in decision making, instead of people who think they know and make the decisions, and then the dictates come down. And then I remember was it they were gonna start Saturday clinics, and so the dictate came down. And, the providers were up in arms.
Yeah, I bet they were.
We had a little tantrum, but at the end of the day, we had to do it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And the question was why? Like, what is the evidence to show that this is gonna add revenue? There was no information, no nothing. Yeah. We're just gonna do it. So I do think that there are some really fascinating things happening now in terms of people reimagining what healthcare can look like outside of the standard realm, insurance-based system. And it's, I think, appealing not just to providers, but to patients, because now with such high deductible plans, I think there was a statistic, 40% of Americans have medical debt, despite having insurance and all of that. So, I think there's enough out there. People know the system as it stands is not working for anybody. We still have poor health outcomes for as much money as we invest. in the system. So things need to change. And I think people know that, by and large. So
yeah,
it's, sorry, long-winded answer, but it's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah. Well, and then it's so clear too, like why people are leaving the bedside. I mean, you and I are both perfect examples of being part of a broken system and feeling like it won't change unless like something radical happens, right? And this huge mass exit of a lot of different healthcare professionals, I'm thinking is going to be that thing. Cause I'm seeing people leave the bedside, leave medicine left and right to pursue another way to help people that is more aligned.
Yeah. And I'm all for it because I think that there's many ways that we can be of service. It just happens that this has been the dominant way for so long. That's what we know. But once you take a step back, because one of the things too, I feel like is like being on that hamster wheel and being so busy, you don't have time, the mental capacity to even be creative in any way, shape, or form, right? And once you take a step back, the creative juices start flowing. You start listening to your intuition more, right?
Yeah.
And you notice, oh, there's more to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. I think there's so many different layers as to what's wrong with the healthcare system, why so many physicians and other healthcare professionals are leaving. But one of the things that I would love to do is, we talked a little bit about your practice, what you do, but can you tell me, like, is there an experience that you've had in your current practice, as you've delved into aesthetics, where you felt like you truly helped someone in a way that you couldn't have in the clinic?
So one of the most rewarding things I feel like I do is treat TMJ, right?
Yeah.
And that's when people have, a lot of tension in their jaw, neck, causes headaches, disrupts sleep.
Yeah.
It can be really debilitating, like pain with just chewing.
Right.
And I remember I met this lovely young lady and she was pretty skeptical about Botox.
Yeah.
She was like, she's into more holistic, natural. And so we talked about it and she was like, you know what? Because, she was asking such great questions. And I love that. Like the more questions, the better, because I like when someone's well informed.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I like to empower people to be well informed.
Love it.
And so I was like, well, let's just try it. And she came back and she was like, oh my gosh, I saw her. So how many sessions has she had? Maybe, because Botox lasts about 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
And in some people, you need less and less over time, or the interval between treatments is larger and larger. And I saw her last month, 2 months ago, and she was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No more headaches.
Wow.
No more jaw pain. Like she has her life back. She has her life back. And there's no greater feeling, I must say though, with primary care, like I would try to make stuff happen no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like I treat people the way I want to be treated, the way I want my family to be treated, right?
Right.
So I usually would find a way, and if I didn't have the way, I would ask, right? And I think people appreciated that. Like like one of my last visits before I left my last practice, there was a
Yeah.
young girl and she had a really like raspy voice. I was like, do you smoke? She was like, no. I
Uh-huh.
was like, has your voice always been like this? She's like, no. It's just been getting like this over time. I was like, I'm referring you to ENT.
Yeah.
And I got to follow up with her. She saw ENT. She had nodules on her vocal cords.
Wow.
She got them removed. Like
Mhm.
she was in speech therapy and like things were moving. Like, so I love medicine.
Yeah.
I love it. It's awesome when it works well,
Right. Yeah. When it
when
works
it works
well.
well. Yeah.
I it really lights me up to see how like you would go above and beyond for your patients whenever you were in the clinic and in your practice before, because I think that's a lot of what is missing
Mm-hmm.
in healthcare, because everything is so rooted in this insurance heavy reimbursement like driven system. Um, Physicians and providers don't really have that opportunity to I mean, they do have the opportunity, but it's not as encouraged as it should be.
It's
So
not, and it comes
yeah.
at a price,
Yeah.
right? Because the
Hmm.
more time spent addressing multiple issues, that's more time on the back end. You have to chart and all
Yeah.
that other stuff, right? But it's worth it. It's worth
Yeah.
it to help people. You know, I was never that type of person where, oh, you have a laundry list of things. Well, pick two, and you came to see me. I'm just gonna try and hit as much as we can in the time that we have. Like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, people, have busy lives, and to tell them, oh, you got to come back, and then I'm booked out for God knows how long,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that you taking this leap and leaving healthcare was a huge step, right? It's a huge transition for someone who you spent all those years in medical school and then working in your practice, and it's a huge leap of faith to be able to like leave and do something that's more fulfilling. So for anybody who's listening, who is maybe in healthcare or in a career that is burning them out or making them feel like just unfulfilled and lost, what would be your top 3 tips for these people to start taking care of themselves and doing things that are more fulfilling?
Um, so definitely, if you can, take some time off, take
Yeah.
some time for yourself.
Yeah.
If you can. Also, most employers have the employee assistance program where you can get assistance in terms of therapy or whatever.
Yeah.
Make use of those resources. They're there. And definitely try to tap into what your passion is. I know there are different. I've seen coaches out there in groups that you can leverage your whatever degree you have
Yeah.
and turn it into a business. If you want to pursue that entrepreneurial side, that's an option. And then I've seen coaches that want to help you overcome burnout while you're in your said position. So
Yeah.
there's somebody out there for you.
Yeah.
But most importantly, you have to prioritize taking care of yourself, drinking
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
getting sleep. Even if it is talking to your employer, if you can afford to cut back on your hours, maybe that's the first step.
Yeah.
Just try to think of what you need, and sometimes it's hard because you're just so overwhelmed. And sometimes it's just taking time off to be in that space. So get that information. Your body will tell you
Yeah,
what you need, right?
absolutely.
And find time to do those things and surround yourself with love to bring yourself to some joy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I love all of those things that you said, and the emphasis on plugging into your resources, plugging into the resources that are readily available to you. And also, if you're feeling like burned out or unfulfilled in your job, um, leaving is not the only solution, right? It is a
Right.
solution that you and I have both taken, but it's not the only solution. There are ways that you can utilize your resources and find a way to make the job that you have more fulfilling. But just in my own personal experience, I've seen a lot of people take the route that, that we did, because it's a more empowering route. It's, you're jumping into a whole new way of helping people, that is fulfilling, but also really scary because it's new and different, and and just all around like a roller coaster, right?
It is. So definitely one of those things that I've realized is that you can burn yourself out in other avenues too.
Yeah.
So it's really important to be intentional about how you're going about this, because you don't want to recreate the same toxicity that led you to leave in the first place, right? So make sure you're time blocking and make the time for lunch, exercise, sleep, right? Because being your own boss, like your hours are so flexible, right? But you don't want it to just overtake everything and you're back at square one. So being really intentional is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love to round out my interviews with this last question because, of course, this is called the Aligned and Well podcast. So, Karen, for you, what does it mean to be aligned and well?
To be aligned and well is where I take time to meditate, be still, so that I can tap into my creativity. Making sure that I have a healthy balance of my work and time with my family and friends. And taking care of my body, listening to my body, because I didn't for a very long time. And so now I'm making time to exercise, to get sleep. So, making sure that I hit those points. Very important. Also, just one of the things I love about being in healthcare is there's always something to learn. So I also make time to learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Love that answer. Is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't know if I said it before, but getting in touch with who you are is very important. That will guide your next step. Right? I knew for myself that there was always in me, I want somebody telling me what to do. So I knew I wanted to be my own boss.
Right. Exactly.
Right? So figuring that out for yourself, like, do you want to be your own boss, or are you more comfortable being an employee? But then if that's the case, what environment do you want to be in, right? Because I think now what leadership looks like is changing, right? And it's refreshing. There's more emotional intelligence involved.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
key. But definitely knowing who you are, what kinds of things you're willing to tolerate
Yeah.
in the workplace, right? Because you'll face challenges no matter what, right? But what would that look like for you? And when you take the time to take a step back, be still, try to work through that and figure out what you want. And get a health coach.
Yeah.
Right? If you're interested in starting your own business, get a business coach, right? Yeah. But definitely, that's a big thing. It's huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. But like going back to like your core values and living a life that's congruent with those. Yes. Because so often I think too, like with healthcare, we get so caught up in like all the benefits that are offered to us as a healthcare employee and all of the pretty little like things that they offer us. And we're so conditioned to just be okay with being in that role. And if that's not in alignment with your values, you're never going to be happy in the hospital or in a clinic or in the system, So I love that I love that you had mentioned that.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. Before we started the podcast, I was listening to Beyonce's Break My Soul.
Love it.
Yeah, you can't break my soul.
Exactly.
A new foundation, a new motivation.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. Well, that's so funny. Okay, well, Karen, where can people find you if they want to see what you're up to and connect with you?
So you can visit my website. It's www.blisshealthmd.com. I'm also on Instagram, Bliss Health and Wellness. Mm-hmm. I'm also on Facebook as well. And yeah, DM me, reach out to me. Mm-hmm. Any questions? I would love to be of service.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for interviewing with me. I appreciate your time, and I think people will really resonate with this episode.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Shawne, for having me. This was awesome. Thank you.
Awesome conversation with Karen. I'm really appreciative of her for taking some time to interview with me and share her story. I hope that this empowered some of you to look a little bit deeper and connect with what your values are and what you truly want to bring to the world and do in your career. If you are someone who is feeling burned out and exhausted and just not fulfilled in what you're currently doing, this is just another nudge for you to look within and find something that does. If you want to connect with Karen, I've left all of her information in the show notes for you. If you'd like to work with me, if this is something that resonated with you, if you are a healthcare provider who is feeling burned out and really lost and you need some direction, I would love to support you. I offer a handful of free discovery sessions every month. And so I would love for you to reach out to me. You can message me on Instagram or Facebook or click the link in the show notes to apply for a free session. I also have a free community on Facebook called Heart Aligned Humans. This is just a safe space for you to come and be yourself in exactly how you are and feel support and seen and heard. We're just a community of like-minded people that focuses on creating a life that's aligned with our hearts. So come hang out with us, and you'll find that link in the show notes as well. For all of my nurse coaches listening to this, I would love to invite you to my free Facebook group called Nurse Coach Tech Support. If you are a nurse coach in private practice and you struggle with the tech side of your business, this is a free resource for you to get support, to get your questions answered. We all kind of pool our resources and help each other out in this group. So I'd love to invite you to join that. I currently have a membership called Nurse Coach Tech Mastery that is currently closed, but the doors to the membership will reopen at the end of the year. So you'll find all of the announcements and things like that in that Facebook group. So come join us. I just want to thank you for listening to this episode. And if you would like to give me some feedback, I'd love it if you would leave a review. If you're listening on a platform where you can leave a review, please do so. If this episode resonated with you at all, make sure you share it on social media. Take a screenshot and tag me. My handle is at Nurse Coach Shawne. That's Shawne with an E. All right, guys, I am here to serve and support you in the most powerful way I can, as always. And remember, when all is aligned, all is well. Bye.